Deep within the oldest myths, whispered across every Pokemon region, there exists a web of connections binding legendary creatures to one another through creation, purpose, and power. These beings stand apart from common species, their origins woven into the very fabric of reality itself. Some were born from the universe's first breath, while others emerged from human emotion, scientific ambition, or the Earth's ancient memory. Tonight, we trace these bloodlines and bonds, following threads that connect gods to guardians, titans to protectors, and myths to the creatures that carry them forward. Before you drift off, maybe tap subscribe for more gentle videos, and let me know where you're listening from tonight as we begin with the Alpha Pokemon, whose existence predates all others. Arceus hatched from an egg when nothing else existed, emerging into a void without light, or substance, or time. Legend describes this moment as the universe's beginning, the instant when possibility became form. The creature that emerged possessed 1,000 arms, though these limbs exist beyond physical sight, extensions of will that shaped space and matter simultaneously. With these unseen appendages, Arceus molded the cosmos, creating dimensions and laws that would govern reality for eons to come. Its body shimmers with power that shifts and changes, reflecting the 17 fundamental forces that define all Pokemon existence. The ability called Multitype allows Arceus to transform its essence, adopting any elemental nature depending on which plate rests within its being. These plates, scattered throughout the world, each contain a fragment of the universe's foundational energies. When Arceus holds a plate, its body resonates with that element's frequency, becoming fire or water, or darkness or steel. This transformation is not merely superficial. The creature's cells restructure themselves, its attacks gain new properties, and even its weakness patterns will shift to match its current form. No other Pokemon possesses this degree of adaptability, this fundamental fluidity of being. Records from ancient Hisui describe Arceus as a protective deity, one that observed the world it created with careful attention. When meteor showers threatened to devastate the planet, Arceus intercepted the falling stones, shattering them before they could strike. When volcanic eruptions risked destroying entire ecosystems, it calmed the Earth's fury with gentle intervention. The people of Hisui came to worship this being, calling it the Almighty Sinnoh, a name that would eventually define the region itself. Temples were built in its honor, and offerings left at sacred sites where its presence had been felt. The relationship between Arceus and humans contains complexity that simple worship cannot capture. Those who approach with kindness and respect find themselves met with compassion, their prayers sometimes answered in subtle ways. But betrayal awakens something different in the Alpha Pokemon, a wrath that remembers. When humans have acted with cruelty or deception toward Arceus, it has responded with violence that reshapes landscapes. These rampages are not mindless. They are calculated, targeted, and devastating. Arceus holds grudges across centuries, never forgetting those who wronged it, or the descendants who carry that legacy. Somewhere in the family tree's margins exists Mew, the new species Pokemon, whose connection to Arceus remains ambiguous and debated. Mew's existence predates recorded history, with fossils and genetic traces suggesting it once thrived in abundance. South American expedition records mention discovering DNA samples in ancient jungle ruins, samples that matched no known Pokemon until scientists realized they belonged to a species thought extinct. This discovery confirmed that Mew still existed somewhere in the world, hidden from human observation through its ability to vanish at will. Mew possesses a playful nature that seems almost childlike, darting through the air with curiosity and joy. Yet beneath this innocent demeanor lies intelligence that rivals any legendary being. It can understand complex situations, adapt to changing circumstances, and make decisions that suggest deep reasoning. The creature's resourcefulness has allowed it to remain concealed for millennia, appearing only in locations remote from human civilization or during moments when it chooses to reveal itself. Few trainers have ever seen Mew in person, and fewer still have earned its trust enough to interact meaningfully. The genetic code within Mew's cells contains something extraordinary, a sequence that appears to include fragments from every Pokémon species. Scientists studying these samples discovered that Mew's DNA can express characteristics from fire types, water types, psychic types, and all others. This genetic flexibility allows Mew to transform its body into any Pokémon form, perfectly mimicking their appearance and abilities. It can breathe fire like Charizard, swim like Gyarados, or phase through walls like Gengar. No move exists that Mew cannot learn, no technique that lies beyond its capability. This universal genetic coding has led some researchers to propose that Mew serves as the common ancestor for all Pokémon species. According to this theory, every creature that walks, swims, or flies descended from Mew's bloodline through millions of years of evolution and divergence. The DNA evidence supports this hypothesis, showing that even the most distantly related Pokémon share certain base sequences found only in Mew. But this creates a paradox when considered alongside Arceus, which supposedly created the universe and everything within it. Did Arceus create Mew, which then gave rise to all other species? Or did Mew exist independently, perhaps even before Arceus emerged from its egg? The relationship between these two beings remains unexplained in official records, with various cultures offering different interpretations. Some believe Arceus created Mew as its first act, a prototype from which all other life would spring. Others suggest Mew existed in the void alongside Arceus, two primordial forces that shaped reality together. A third theory proposes that Mew descended from Arceus indirectly, created through the same process that formed the universe itself. The truth may be unknowable, lost to time and the limits of mortal understanding. Perhaps it resembles the ancient riddle about chickens and eggs, a question without beginning or end. From Arceus's direct intervention came 6 beings, creatures formed deliberately to serve specific functions in the newly created universe. These 6 would shape reality's fundamental properties, establishing the laws that all other Pokémon would follow. 3 of them would govern the physical dimensions themselves, while the remaining 3 would grant consciousness and capability to lesser beings. Together, they represent Arceus's children in the truest sense, extensions of its will made manifest as independent entities. The first trio consists of the Pokémon of myth, beings whose power over reality's structure remains unmatched by any save their creator. Dialga emerged into existence with dominion over time itself, its body composed of elements that exist outside temporal flow. When Dialga was born, time began moving forward for the first time, moments following moments in the sequence that would define all future events. Its heart beats with a rhythm that maintains this flow, each pulse pushing existence one instant further into what will be. Without Dialga's continued existence, time might cease or reverse or fragment into paradoxes that unmake history. This Pokémon can manipulate temporal streams with ease, traveling backward to witness events long past or forward to observe futures yet to unfold. It can also warp time locally, creating pockets where hours pass as seconds or minutes stretch across days. These abilities make Dialga nearly impossible to defeat in battle, as it can simply revert any damage it sustains by reversing time around itself. Legends speak of Dialga creating entirely new timelines through its power, branching realities that diverge from the main flow and develop independently. Palkia holds equivalent authority over space, the physical dimensions that define location and distance. Its birth coincided with the formation of the world's sky, the vast expanse that separates ground from void. Every time Palkia breathes, space becomes more stable, dimensions settling into their proper relationships. But this same Pokemon can destabilize space deliberately, warping distances so that far becomes near or near becomes impossibly distant. It can tear holes between dimensions, creating portals that lead to realities beyond normal perception. Ancient proverbs describe Palkia as the sculptor of boundaries, the being that decided where one place ends and another begins. Without its influence, all locations might collapse into a single point, or scatter infinitely across the void. Palkia can travel instantaneously to any location, simply by adjusting the spatial coordinates around its body. It can also expand or compress space within specific areas, making rooms larger on the inside than their outer dimensions suggest. Some tales claim Palkia once destroyed an entire spatial dimension that had become corrupted, erasing it so thoroughly that no trace remained. Together, Dialga and Palkia possess the power to create new universes, realities separate from the one Arceus originally formed. They can work independently, with Dialga establishing temporal flow and Palkia defining spatial structure, or collaborate to shape these new worlds more efficiently. Each universe they create exists parallel to others, connected by invisible threads, but developing along its own unique path. Some theories suggest that the multiple timelines observed by travelers result from Dialga and Palkia's experiments with reality creation, new branches sprouting whenever they test their abilities. The Diamond and Pearl clans in ancient Hisui each worshipped one of these beings, seeing them as the ultimate expression of divine power. The Diamond clan revered Dialga, building shrines where they offered gifts and prayers for favorable futures. The Pearl clan honored Palkia, constructing monuments at locations where space felt thin, where the boundary between dimensions seemed ready to tear. Both clans referred to their chosen deity as the Almighty Sinnoh, the same title given to Arceus, suggesting they may not have fully understood the hierarchy between creator and creation. The third member of this trio carries a darker story, one marked by violence and exile. Giratina represents antimatter, the inverse of all physical matter that composes normal reality. Where Dialga governs time and Palkia governs space, Giratina embodies the opposite of both, existing in contradiction to the universe's basic structure. Its form reflects this opposition, appearing twisted and strange compared to its siblings. Giratina's creation filled it with rage that Arceus could not abate, violent impulses that threatened the newly formed world. Arceus responded to this violence by banishing Giratina to the distortion world, a reality that exists as the reverse side of normal space. In this inverted realm, gravity operates differently, objects float without support, and dimensions fold in ways that defy geometric logic. The distortion world serves as both prison and domain for Giratina, a place where its nature aligns with environmental rules. From this exile, Giratina watches the old world, observing events through portals that connect the two realities. It can travel between worlds when necessary, emerging into normal space when threats require its intervention or when its grudges demand satisfaction. For countless ages, Giratina harbored resentment toward Arceus, anger at being cast out, while Dialga and Palkia remained free. This bitterness made it willing to ally with Volo, a human who sought to challenge Arceus's authority and reshape reality according to his own vision. Together, they attempted to overthrow the creator, to prove that Giratina deserved recognition equal to its siblings. But a child from the future, transported across time by forces unknown, defeated both Giratina and Volo in battle. This loss transformed Giratina's perspective, teaching it humility and purpose beyond revenge. Since that defeat, Giratina has become a protector of the universe, guarding against threats that emerge from dimensional rifts or temporal anomalies. It watches for disturbances in the fabric of reality, places where the barrier between worlds grows weak or where hostile forces seek entry. When such threats appear, Giratina emerges from the distortion world to confront them, using its power over antimatter to neutralize dangers that conventional Pokémon cannot harm. This redemption has not fully healed the relationship with Arceus, but it has established an understanding between creator and creation. All three Pokémon of myth possess origin forms, shapes they assume when holding specific orbs or when residing in their home dimensions. These forms are believed to be their true appearances, the bodies they wore when first created. Dialga's origin form emphasizes its temporal nature, with crystalline structures along its body that pulse with time's rhythm. Palkia's origin form highlights spatial geometry, sharp angles, and precise proportions that reflect dimensional mathematics. Giratina's origin form appears even more serpentine and otherworldly, fully embracing its role as the inverse of normal existence. The second trio created by Arceus serves a different purpose, focused inward on consciousness rather than outward on reality's structure. The Lake Guardians emerged from a single egg, three beings born simultaneously to fulfill complementary roles. They would grant humanity the mental and emotional capacities needed to survive and thrive in the world Arceus had shaped. Without these gifts, humans would have remained simple creatures, unable to think or feel or choose in meaningful ways. Uxie, the first of the Lake Guardians, gave humans knowledge, the ability to learn and remember and understand. Its influence allows humans to recognize patterns, solve problems, and accumulate wisdom across generations. Uxie itself possesses infinite knowledge, aware of every fact and truth that exists within the universe. But this knowledge comes with danger, as looking directly into Uxie's eyes causes immediate amnesia, wiping away all memories the viewer has accumulated. This protective mechanism prevents humans from gaining knowledge they cannot safely possess, information that might drive them to madness or destructive action. Uxie makes its home at the bottom of Lake Acuity, in waters so cold that most Pokémon cannot survive there. The lake's frigid temperatures mirror the cold clarity of pure knowledge, understanding stripped of emotion or bias. Trainers who seek Uxie must demonstrate wisdom before being granted an audience, proving they can handle truth without flinching. Those who pass this test find Uxie willing to share certain insights, carefully measured revelations that expand understanding without overwhelming consciousness. Mesprit, the second guardian, granted humans emotion, the capacity to feel joy and sorrow and love and hatred. These feelings transform humans from thinking machines into beings capable of connection and meaning. Mesprit itself experiences emotions intensely, responding to the feelings of others with perfect empathy. It can sense emotional states through telepathy, perceiving happiness or despair from vast distances. This sensitivity makes Mesprit gentle and compassionate, drawn to those who suffer and eager to provide comfort. The being of emotion resides at the bottom of Lake Verity, in waters that reflect the sky with perfect clarity. This lake's surface remains calm even during storms, mirroring Mesprit's role in maintaining emotional balance. Those who encounter Mesprit often find themselves overwhelmed by feelings they had suppressed, emotions surfacing with sudden intensity. The Guardian helps humans process these feelings, teaching them to acknowledge their inner lives without being consumed by them. Mesprit can also remove emotions from those who abuse them, leaving cruel individuals hollow and empty until they learn compassion. Azelf, the final Guardian, bestowed willpower upon humanity, the determination to act and choose and persevere. This gift allows humans to pursue goals despite obstacles, to maintain purpose when circumstances turn hostile. Azelf embodies this determination, never retreating and never surrendering regardless of the challenges it faces. Its will cannot be broken through force or persuasion, making it the most stubborn of the three guardians. This inflexibility serves a purpose, demonstrating that some principles deserve defense regardless of cost. Lake Valor holds Azelf within its depths, waters churning with fierce currents that test anyone attempting to reach the bottom. The lake's turbulence reflects the struggle inherent in exercising willpower, the constant effort required to maintain resolve. Azelf respects those who demonstrate genuine determination, offering its blessing to trainers who prove they will not abandon their convictions. But it holds contempt for those who mistake stubbornness for willpower, who refuse to adapt when circumstances demand flexibility. Together, the Lake Guardians possess abilities beyond their individual gifts. They can create the Red Chain, an artifact capable of controlling Dialga and Palkia, binding the Pokémon of myth to human will. This chain forms when the three guardians combine their powers, weaving knowledge and emotion and will into a single unbreakable tether. The Red Chain's existence represents a safeguard, a way for consciousness to restrain the forces that shape reality itself. But it also poses immense danger, as any human wielding the chain could command gods, forcing them to reshape existence according to mortal whims. The Guardians can also destroy the Red Chain should it be created, unweaving the strands that bind it together. They can calm either Dialga or Palkia when these beings rage, soothing their fury through a combination of wisdom, empathy, and determination. But they cannot calm both simultaneously, lacking the strength to restrain two gods at once. This limitation means that if Dialga and Palkia both lose control together, the Lake Guardians cannot prevent catastrophe. Only Arceus or Giratina could intervene in such circumstances, gods restraining gods while lesser beings watch helplessly. The emotional nature of the Lake Guardians suggests a connection to another legendary pair, siblings who share similar gifts of empathy and perception. The Eon siblings, Latias and Latios, possess abilities that mirror Mesprit's emotional sensitivity, though their powers manifest differently. Both siblings demonstrate high intelligence, capable of understanding human speech without telepathic translation. They can process complex language, grasp abstract concepts, and respond to nuanced questions with appropriate answers. This cognitive ability exceeds most Pokémon, suggesting deliberate design rather than natural evolution. Latias and Latios sense emotions through telepathy, perceiving the feelings of humans and Pokémon alike. They can detect happiness, fear, anger, and sadness from considerable distances, reading emotional states as easily as most creatures read visual information. This empathic ability allows them to anticipate threats, recognizing hostile intent before it manifests as action. It also makes them excellent judges of character, able to distinguish genuine kindness from manipulation or false friendship. Beyond their mental gifts, both siblings possess remarkable physical capabilities. Latias can render itself invisible, bending light around its body to become undetectable to normal vision. This ability provides both protection and mobility, allowing Latias to observe without being observed, to travel without attracting attention. The invisibility extends to anything Latias carries, making it possible to transport objects or passengers without revealing their presence. Latios achieves incredible speed by tucking its arms against its body, streamlining its form to minimize air resistance. In this configuration, Latios can exceed the velocity of jet aircraft, leaving sonic booms in its wake. The strain this speed places on its body would destroy most Pokémon, but Latios possesses reinforced cellular structure that withstands the extreme forces involved. When both siblings Mega Evolve, their speed increases to Mach 4, fast enough to cross small regions in minutes. The connection between the Lake Guardians and the Eon siblings likely runs through Mesprit, whose emotional gifts most closely align with the siblings' empathic abilities. Whether this connection implies direct creation or simply shared characteristics remains unclear. Some researchers propose that Mesprit designed Latias and Latios as mobile extensions of its own consciousness, agents who could travel freely while Mesprit remained bound to Lake Verity. Others suggest the siblings developed their abilities independently, evolving to fill a niche that happened to overlap with Mesprit's domain. Returning to the Pokémon of myth, Dialga's temporal powers suggest a relationship with another legendary being whose existence centers on time. Celebi, the time travel Pokémon, serves as guardian of Ilex Forest in the Johto region, wandering across temporal streams with ease. Unlike Dialga, which governs time's fundamental flow, Celebi navigates time without controlling it, a passenger rather than driver. The creature appears only during peaceful eras, avoiding periods marked by war or catastrophe. This selective presence has led to speculation that Celebi can sense the emotional resonance of different time periods, drawn to eras of harmony. When Celebi appears in a forest, the vegetation flourishes with unnatural vigor. Plants grow larger and healthier, producing abundant fruit and seed. This effect stems from Celebi's connection to natural energy, a power that flows from its body into the surrounding environment. Some researchers believe Celebi transfers vitality from future timelines into the present, borrowing growth that would occur eventually and applying it immediately. This temporal manipulation of biological processes explains why forests visited by Celebus seem to develop decades' worth of maturity overnight. Celebi's time travel ability operates differently from Dialga's, focused on transportation rather than manipulation. Where Dialga can reverse or accelerate time's flow, Celebi simply moves through it, jumping between eras without affecting the timeline's structure. This makes Celebi's power safer in some ways, less likely to create paradoxes or unravel causality. But it also limits Celebi's influence, preventing it from changing major historical events or preventing disasters. The time travel Pokémon observes time rather than controlling it, a witness to history rather than an architect. Legends describe Celebi as a messenger, carrying information between past and future. People who encounter Celebi sometimes receive visions of events yet to come, or memories of times long past. These glimpses rarely provide complete context, appearing as fragments or symbols that require interpretation. Some believe Celebi shares these visions deliberately, offering warnings or encouragement to those it deems worthy. Others suggest the visions leak naturally from Celebi's presence, temporal energy affecting nearby minds and inducing prophetic dreams. The relationship between Celebi and Dialga remains ambiguous, with no confirmed interaction recorded between them. Some theorists propose that Dialga created Celebi to serve as a caretaker of natural environments, a being that could nurture life through temporal manipulation. This would explain Celebi's forest association and its inability to affect time's fundamental flow, limitations imposed to prevent it from interfering with Dialga's domain. Alternative theories suggest Celebi evolved naturally in response to temporal anomalies, developing time travel abilities to escape predators or reach food sources in different eras. If you're still awake halfway through, maybe subscribe before you drift off, and tell me what time it is where you're watching from. Shifting focus from temporal beings to those who command terrestrial forces, we encounter the Weather Trio, legendary Pokémon whose battles have reshaped continents. These three beings emerged in ancient times, each claiming domain over a fundamental aspect of the planet's environment. Their conflicts have carved trenches in ocean floors, raised mountain ranges from flatlands, and scorched entire regions with elemental fury. Even today, sailors and pilots know to watch for signs of their stirring, as a single awakening can trigger storms that devastate shipping lanes or ground flights for days. Kyogre, the sea basin Pokémon, embodies the ocean's power and fury. Its body contains enough water to fill seas, and its movements generate waves that dwarf tsunamis. When Kyogre awakens from slumber, its presence causes rain to fall across vast areas, precipitation so heavy that rivers overflow and flatlands become lakes. This rain can continue for days or weeks, transforming dry regions into waterlogged swamps. Kyogre's signature ability, Drizzle, manifests this power in concentrated form, surrounding the Pokémon with perpetual rainfall that weakens fire-type attacks and strengthens water moves. Ancient myths describe Kyogre as the creator of oceans, a being that filled empty basins with water drawn from its own body. These legends claim that before Kyogre's emergence, the world consisted entirely of land, a single supercontinent stretching across the globe. Kyogre's arrival broke this landmass apart, flooding the spaces between fragments and creating the separated continents and islands that define modern geography. While geological evidence suggests more gradual processes shaped the planet's surface, the myths may contain symbolic truth about Kyogre's role in establishing marine ecosystems. Kyogre's underwater territories extend to the deepest trenches, places where pressure would crush conventional submarines like paper. Its body has evolved to withstand these depths. Without difficulty, cells adapted to extreme compression. Within these dark realms, Kyogre rests between periods of activity, drifting in currents that flow along the ocean floor. Specialized organs along its body sense disturbances far above, detecting ships or Pokémon that intrude on its domain. When sufficiently provoked, Kyogre rises to the surface, bringing storms in its wake. The seafloor cavern serves as Kyogre's primary resting place in the Hoenn region, an underwater cave system hidden beneath miles of ocean. Reaching this location requires navigating treacherous currents and diving to depths that test even experienced trainers' Pokémon. Within the cavern, bioluminescent algae provide faint illumination, casting blue-green light across stone formations worn smooth by ancient waters. Kyogre sleeps on a raised platform at the cavern's heart, its body pulsing with barely contained energy that causes the surrounding water to churn gently. Opposing Kyogre's oceanic dominion stands Groudon, the continent Pokémon, whose power over land rivals the sea's fury. Groudon's body radiates intense heat, temperature high enough to evaporate water on contact and turn stone to magma. Its footsteps leave glowing prints that cool slowly to obsidian, and its breath emerges as waves of distorted air. When Groudon awakens, the sun intensifies, clouds evaporate, and drought spreads across regions. This weather manipulation stems from Groudon's ability, Drought, which creates harsh sunlight that strengthens fire-type moves and weakens water attacks. Legends credit Groudon with raising continents from ocean floors, lifting land masses through volcanic activity and tectonic upheaval. These myths describe a primordial world covered entirely by water, where Kyogre's domain extended uncontested. Groudon's emergence challenged this aquatic hegemony, creating land through eruptions and earthquakes. As continents rose, water receded, establishing the balance between sea and land that characterizes the modern world. The ongoing conflict between Kyogre and Groudon represents this eternal struggle, ocean against earth, neither willing to cede territory permanently. Groudon inhabits the deepest caverns of Terra Cave, networks of magma chambers and volcanic tunnels that stretch beneath Hoenn's landmass. The cave's interior maintains temperatures that would incinerate most life forms, air shimmering with heat and ground glowing dull red. Groudon rests within these inhospitable conditions, its body absorbing thermal energy from the planet's core. This energy sustains Groudon during dormancy and powers its devastating attacks when awakened. Seismologists monitoring the region detect subtle tremors whenever Groudon shifts position, microquakes that serve as early warnings of potential emergence. Between these two titans flies Rayquaza, the sky-high Pokémon whose role as mediator has prevented countless catastrophes. Rayquaza dwells in the ozone layer, high above weather systems and normal air traffic. Its body has adapted to survive in this thin atmosphere, drawing energy from meteoroids that pass through the layer. When Kyogre and Groudon clash, their combined weather effects threaten global climate stability. Rain from Kyogre's presence meets drought from Groudon's heat, creating violent storms that spawn tornadoes and lightning. Rayquaza descends from its atmospheric domain when these conflicts erupt, intervening with power that forces both combatants into submission. The sky-high Pokemon's signature ability, Airlock, neutralizes all weather effects in its vicinity, creating a zone where neither rain nor drought persists. This ability makes Rayquaza the perfect counter to both Kyogre and Groudon, negating their environmental advantages and forcing them to fight on neutral terms. But Rayquaza's power extends beyond weather manipulation. Its physical strength matches either of its rivals, capable of battling Kyogre or Groudon individually without assistance. When facing both simultaneously, Rayquaza must rely on superior speed and aerial maneuverability, striking from angles they cannot defend. Ancient records speak of a catastrophic conflict when Kyogre and Groudon awakened simultaneously, their battle threatening to tear the region apart. Tidal waves crashed against volcanic eruptions, creating steam that obscured the sky. Lightning from storm clouds ignited fires that spread across drying vegetation, while earthquakes opened fissures that swallowed towns. Humans prayed to any deity that might hear, begging for intervention. Rayquaza answered these prayers, descending from the heavens with speed that left contrails in its wake. Its arrival silenced both combatants, forcing them back into dormancy through sheer presence. This intervention earned Rayquaza reverence among coastal and mountain communities alike, with both groups building shrines in its honor. Sailors leave offerings before departing on long voyages, asking Rayquaza to prevent Kyogre's awakening. Farmers pray before planting season, requesting that Groudon remain asleep and spare crops from drought. These traditions continue in modified form even today, with some trainers carrying lucky charms bearing Rayquaza's image when challenging Kyogre or Groudon in battle. All three members of the Weather Trio possess primal forms, ancient states they can achieve through primal reversion. This process taps into power reserves accumulated over millions of years, temporarily restoring them to their original strength. Primal Kyogre's body swells with additional water reserves, its fins growing larger and more elaborate. The markings along its skin glow bright blue, and its weather manipulation intensifies to the point where rain falls constantly in a wide radius. Primal Groudon's transformation is even more dramatic, its body igniting with magma that flows across its surface. This extreme heat evaporates water before it can touch Groudon, negating Kyogre's primary advantage. Rayquaza's equivalent transformation, Mega Evolution, requires different conditions but achieves similar power enhancement. Unlike most Mega Evolutions that require a stone, Rayquaza Mega evolves through mastery of the Move Dragon Ascent, a technique unique to this species. Mega Rayquaza's body extends and streamlines, becoming even faster than its base form. Golden rings appear along its length, and its power increases to levels that match both primal forms simultaneously. In this state, Mega Rayquaza represents the apex of the Weather Trio, capable of subduing both rivals even when they fight together. The dynamic between these three beings mirrors the natural balance between ocean, land, and sky. Each domain requires the others to function properly. Oceans without land would stagnate, lacking the nutrients washed from soil. Land without oceans would become desert, deprived of the moisture that rain provides. Sky without either would be empty, holding no weather systems or atmospheric cycles. Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza embody these dependencies, their conflicts and resolutions maintaining equilibrium across the ages. Shifting from environmental dominance to dimensional barriers, we encounter the Tower Duo, guardians of human structures that bridge realms. These two Pokémon emerged in the Johto region, taking residence in towers built specifically to house them. The relationship between human construction and legendary beings represents rare collaboration, showing that under proper circumstances, people and gods can coexist. These towers served as places of worship, meditation, and sometimes tragedy, with events in one tower echoing across centuries. Ho-Oh, the rainbow Pokémon, makes its home atop the bell tower in Ecruteak City, a structure also known as the Tin Tower. This Pokémon's feathers shine with 7 colors, each hue reflecting light differently to create a permanent rainbow effect. When Ho-Oh flies, its passage through the sky leaves rainbow trails that persist for minutes, visible from miles away. This visual spectacle has made Ho-Oh a symbol of hope and renewal, with people interpreting its appearances as signs of coming fortune. The Pokémon's association with rainbows connects to its role as a bringer of joy, arriving when darkness needs dispelling. Ho-Oh possesses an extraordinary ability rarely discussed in common legend, the power to resurrect the dead. This capability extends only to Pokémon, not humans, and requires specific circumstances to activate. The resurrected Pokémon returns different from before, transformed by the sacred flame that Ho-Oh wields. This flame burns with 7 colors like Ho-Oh's feathers, a fire that purifies rather than destroys. Those touched by the sacred fire find themselves renewed, not just in body but in purpose, driven to serve as protectors of the innocent. The bell tower earned its name from the bells that hang in its highest chamber, instruments that ring without wind to move them. These bells sound whenever Ho-Oh approaches or departs, their tones carrying across Ecruteak City and beyond. Locals can identify different bell patterns, interpreting them as messages about Ho-Oh's mood or intentions. 3 rapid rings suggest urgency, while slow, steady tolling indicates contentment. This acoustic communication allows residents to sense Ho-Oh's presence, even when clouds obscure the tower's peak. Only trainers pure of heart can summon Ho-Oh, individuals whose intentions remain free from selfish desire or malicious intent. The rainbow wing serves as proof of this purity, a feather that Ho-Oh drops only for those it deems worthy. This feather glows faintly with inner light, growing brighter as its bearer climbs the bell tower. Those carrying false versions, or who obtained the wing through deception, find the feather darkens and crumbles to ash. True bearers reach the summit to find Ho-Oh waiting, willing to test their strength in battle before deciding whether to join them. Below the bell tower, both literally and metaphorically, stands the brass tower, now known as the Burned Tower. This structure once matched the bell tower in grandeur, serving as home to Lugia, the diving Pokémon. Lugia embodies the sea and storm, its wings generating wind strong enough to level buildings with casual flaps. Ancient texts describe Lugia as gentle despite this power, careful to remain submerged to avoid causing devastation through simple movement. The Pokémon's underwater domains kept it separated from human civilization, protecting both species from accidental harm. Tragedy struck the brass tower centuries ago when lightning ignited its wooden structure during a storm. The fire spread rapidly, consuming the tower before anyone could extinguish the flames. 3 Pokémon perished in the blaze, ordinary creatures that had made the tower their home. These deaths might have remained footnotes in history, but Ho-Oh witnessed the fire from its perch across the city. Moved by compassion for the lost lives, Ho-Oh descended from the bell tower and unleashed its sacred fire upon the smoldering ruins. The three Pokémon rose from death transformed, no longer the species they had been. They emerged as the legendary beasts, creatures embodying the elements that had claimed and then renewed them. Raikou, the thunder Pokémon, represented the lightning that struck the tower, its body crackling with electrical energy. Entei, the volcano Pokémon, embodied the fire that consumed the structure, flames erupting from its back with each bark. Suicune, the Aurora Pokémon, symbolized the rain that finally extinguished the blaze, its power over water absolute. These three became Ho-Oh's servants, roaming the land to protect the innocent and uphold the values their resurrection represented. The Tower Duo's connection to Johto runs deeper than simple residents. Ho-Oh and Lugia serve as guardians of the region itself, monitoring threats and intervening when disasters threaten massive loss of life. Their presence in human-built structures indicates trust, a willingness to coexist that few legendary Pokémon demonstrate. This trust was betrayed by the Brass Tower fire, an accident perhaps, but one that forced Lugia to relocate to the Whirl Islands. The diving Pokémon has not returned to human habitation since, choosing isolation over the risk of further tragedy. The legendary beasts operate as a unit, though they rarely travel together. Each has claimed different territories across Johto, with Raikou favoring open plains where thunderstorms gather, and Entei seeking volcanic regions where its fire nature thrives, and Suicune drawn to pure water sources far from pollution. They communicate across distances through means unknown to researchers, coordinating responses when threats require their combined attention. Trainers who encounter one beast often find the others arriving soon after, as if summoned telepathically. Raikou's speed matches lightning, allowing it to cross entire regions in moments. The Thunder Pokemon's body constantly generates electrical charges, releasing them as attacks or storing them for later use. Its roar sounds like thunder, capable of deafening those who stand too close. Raikou shows preference for high ground during battles, seeking elevated positions where lightning strikes naturally. This tactical thinking suggests intelligence beyond simple animal instinct, a mind capable of strategy and adaptation. Entei carries the sacred fire within its body, flames hot enough to melt steel in seconds. Despite this intense heat, Entei rarely causes unintended destruction, controlling its flames with precision that prevents wildfires. The volcano Pokémon can extinguish its flames completely when moving through populated areas, allowing it to pass through cities that's without risk. But when battle demands full power, Entei becomes an inferno incarnate, its body radiating heat that forces opponents to maintain distance or risk burns. Suicune purifies water wherever it travels, its presence cleansing pollutants and toxins from lakes and rivers. This purification happens automatically, a passive effect of Suicune's existence rather than conscious action. The Aurora Pokémon moves with grace that seems impossible for a quadruped, its gait more glide than run. It can walk across water surfaces, feet barely disturbing the liquid beneath them. This ability extends to other liquids, allowing Suicune to traverse lava or acid without harm, though it rarely encounters such environments. Together, the legendary beasts represent Ho-Oh's will made manifest, agents who carry out its desire to protect and nurture. They answer to no other authority, ignoring human commands unless given exceptional reason to cooperate. Some trainers have earned their respect through acts of selfless courage, individuals who placed others' safety above personal gain. These rare partnerships demonstrate that even resurrected Pokémon retain capacity for loyalty and gratitude, emotions that survived transformation and persist across centuries. Moving from towers to skies, we encounter another avian legend whose power differs markedly from Ho-Oh's sacred flame. Yveltal, the destruction Pokémon, embodies death's inevitability, serving as counterbalance to forces that create and preserve. Where Ho-Oh resurrects, Yveltal destroys. Where Xerneas gives life, Yveltal takes it away. This role positions Yveltal as necessary rather than evil, a being whose function maintains balance by ensuring that growth does not exceed sustainable levels. Yveltal's body resembles a massive bird, wings spreading wide enough to darken entire towns when it passes overhead. Red and black feathers cover its form, colors traditionally associated with danger and death. When Yveltal's life reaches its end, the Pokémon transforms into a cocoon and absorbs the life energy of everything nearby. This absorption proves indiscriminate, draining vitality from plants, Pokémon, and humans alike. Forests become graveyards, water sources turn lifeless, and even the soil loses fertility. This apocalyptic harvest allows Yveltal to hibernate for centuries, sleeping within its cocoon until conditions prompt reawakening. Legends from the Kalos region describe an event known as the Darkest Day, when Yveltal's awakening devastated entire provinces. Witnesses reported the sky turning crimson, plants withering instantly, and Pokémon collapsing mid-stride as their life force drained away. Those who survived did so by fleeing beyond Yveltal's absorption radius, abandoning homes and belongings to escape the expanding death zone. The aftermath left landscapes barren, requiring decades for ecosystems to recover. This historical trauma made Yveltal's name synonymous with catastrophe, a portent of ending times. Yet Yveltal's destructive power serves essential purpose within the natural order. Life unchecked would overflow its environment, populations growing until resources collapsed. Predation and disease provide some control, but occasionally these mechanisms prove insufficient. Yveltal's periodic awakenings reset ecosystems, clearing accumulated decay and creating space for new growth. The life energy it absorbs doesn't vanish, instead storing within the cocoon to fuel eventual rebirth. When Yveltal next wakes, this energy disperses back into the world, fertilizing soil and invigorating survivors. Opposing Yveltal's destruction stands Xerneas, the life Pokémon, whose presence causes vegetation to flourish with a natural vigor. Xerneas resembles a deer, its body composed partially of living wood and crystal that gleam with rainbow colors. 8 antlers crown its head, each glowing with different hues when Xerneas channels power. These antlers can convert Xerneas' life force into pure energy that restores vitality to any nearby living thing. Withered plants straighten and bloom, exhausted Pokémon regain stamina, and injuries heal at accelerated rates. Like Yveltal, Xerneas enters dormant states between active periods, transforming into a tree that blends seamlessly with forest surroundings. This form, called neutral mode, allows Xerneas to rest while remaining aware of environmental conditions. When threats or opportunities require intervention, the tree transforms back into active mode, Xerneas emerging fully conscious and ready to act. The transition between forms takes only seconds, but witnesses describe it as miraculous wood and leaves reshaping into flesh and crystal before their eyes. Xerneas' gift of life extends beyond simple healing, capable of extending lifespans and even reversing aging in some cases. Ancient rulers sought Xerneas desperately, hoping to gain immortality through its power. These searches universally failed, as Xerneas shares its gift only with those who lack selfish motivation. Those seeking longevity for personal benefit find Xerneas uncooperative, while those who request healing for others receive immediate assistance. This selective generosity suggests moral judgment capacity, an ability to discern worthy recipients from those who would abuse the privilege. The dynamic between Yveltal and Xerneas creates oscillating cycles of death and rebirth that shape Kalos' ecology. When Xerneas' influence dominates, forests expand, populations surge, and abundance characterizes the landscape. Eventually, this growth becomes unsustainable, resources depleting as demand exceeds supply. Yveltal's awakening corrects the imbalance, culling excess and creating scarcity that tests survivors. Those who endure emerge stronger, better adapted to harsh conditions. This cycle has repeated countless times across millennia, each iteration refining life's resilience. A third force exists between these extremes, embodying balance and order. Zygarde, the Order Pokémon, monitors Kalos' ecosystem constantly, intervening when imbalances threaten stability. Unlike Xerneas and Yveltal, who operate on instinct and nature, Zygarde demonstrates calculated intelligence, assessing situations before acting. Its body consists of cells scattered across the entire region, individual units called cores and cells that communicate through networks invisible to conventional senses. When action becomes necessary, these scattered components gather to form Zygarde's physical body. Zygarde possesses 3 primary forms, each suited to different situations. The 10% form resembles a small serpentine creature, quick and agile but lacking raw power. This form handles minor interventions, situations requiring speed over strength. The 50% form appears as a larger serpent with more defined features, striking a balance between mobility and combat capability. Most encounters with Zygarde involve this form, as it provides adequate power for most threats while remaining energy efficient. The complete form manifests only during catastrophic events, when Xerneas and Yveltal clash, or when threats exceed normal countermeasures. Complete Zygarde towers above buildings, its humanoid frame radiating authority that silences conflicts through presence alone. 4 wings extend from its back, cores glowing within its chest, and power radiating from every surface. This form can suppress both Xerneas and Yveltal simultaneously, forcing them into dormancy through sheer dominance. Complete Zygarde represents the ecosystem's immune response, a defender that emerges only when the system itself faces existential threat. After resolving the crisis, Complete Zygarde disperses back into scattered cells, resuming its patient observation. The 3 Kalos legends form a triangle of opposing forces: creation against destruction against preservation. Each checks the others, preventing any single force from dominating permanently. Xerneas cannot create without limit, as Yveltal's inevitable awakening culls excess. Yveltal cannot destroy everything, as Xerneas restores life after each apocalypse. Zygarde cannot maintain status quo indefinitely, as change remains necessary for adaptation and evolution. Together, they ensure Kalos remains stable without stagnating, dynamic without collapsing into chaos. Shifting focus from life and death to different fundamental forces, we encounter the Tau Trio, legendary Pokémon whose existence centers on truth, ideals, and the synthesis between them. These beings emerged in the Unova region, where they became central to cultural mythology and historical conflict. Unlike many legendary Pokémon that avoid human affairs, the Tau Trio involved itself directly in human civilization, supporting kingdoms and influencing wars. This intervention left lasting marks on Unova's development, shaping the region's values and divisions that persist today. The original dragon, a being whose true name has been lost to time, once existed as a single entity embodying both truth and ideals. This dragon partnered with 2 human heroes, brothers who shared the vision of creating a prosperous kingdom. With the original dragon's power supporting them, these brothers established a realm that flourished under their combined leadership. The partnership represented perfect balance between complementary forces, truth providing foundation, and ideals offering direction. For years, this harmony persisted, the kingdom growing stronger as the brothers and dragon worked in concert. But philosophical differences eventually divided the brothers, arguments escalating until reconciliation became impossible. One brother valued truth above all, believing that honest assessment of reality must guide all decisions. The other prioritized ideals, arguing that noble aspirations justify sacrifice and compromise with strict accuracy. Neither brother could accept the other's position, their disagreement hardening into opposition that split not just their relationship but the kingdom itself. The original dragon, caught between these competing philosophies, felt torn by conflicting loyalties. Unable to serve both brothers simultaneously, the original dragon split into two beings, each embodying one brother's philosophical stance. Reshiram, the vast white Pokémon, emerged as the avatar of truth, its body pure white like untainted facts. Zekrom, the deep black Pokémon, manifested as the champion of ideals, its form black like the darkness before dawn's possibilities. This division occurred against the original dragon's will, a traumatic sundering that left both halves diminished compared to their united strength. The tail that held them together fell away, becoming a third entity that would wait millennia before awakening. Reshiram possesses flames that burn with intense heat, thermal energy that exceeds most fire-type attacks. These flames don't spread like normal fire, instead remaining concentrated around Reshiram's body and attacks. The white flames represent truth's harsh clarity, illumination that reveals reality without mercy. When Reshiram breathes fire, the attack incinerates falsehoods, burning through deception to expose what lies beneath. This makes Reshiram's presence uncomfortable for dishonest individuals, as the Pokémon can sense lies and responds with hostility toward those who rely on deception. The vast white Pokémon values honesty above compassion, willing to deliver painful truths when sugarcoating would serve better. This inflexibility can make Reshiram difficult to work with, as the Pokémon refuses to temper its judgments to spare feelings. But this same trait ensures that Reshiram never misleads, never makes promises it cannot keep, and never hides inconvenient realities. Those who seek Reshiram's counsel receive unvarnished assessments, information they can trust completely even when they'd prefer gentler versions. Zekrom generates massive electrical charges, storing them within its tail and body before releasing them as devastating attacks. Unlike Reshiram's concentrated flames, Zekrom's lightning spreads outward, arcing between targets and jumping across conductive surfaces. This electrical fury represents Ideal's explosive potential, the energy that drives revolution and transformation. When Zekrom roars, thunder follows, sound waves that shake the air and rattle windows miles away. The deep black Pokémon embodies ambition and drive, pushing beyond present limitations toward imagined futures. Where Reshiram judges harshly, Zekrom encourages boldly, believing that noble goals justify substantial risks. This optimism can lead to recklessness, as Zekrom sometimes underestimates practical obstacles in service of inspiring visions. But the Pokémon's ability to see beyond current constraints enables progress that strict realists might declare impossible. Zekrom has supported underdogs and revolutionaries throughout history, appearing to individuals whose ideals burn bright enough to warrant legendary assistance. These interventions don't always succeed, as even Zekrom's power cannot guarantee outcomes against overwhelming opposition. For generations after their split, Reshiram and Zekrom fought as proxies in their heroes' war, each supporting armies loyal to their brother's philosophy. These conflicts devastated Unova, with entire cities destroyed in the battles between truth and ideals. Neither dragon could gain permanent advantage, as their equal strength meant victories by one were matched by losses to the other. The land suffered regardless of which side won particular engagements, with civilian populations bearing the cost of legendary combat. The original heroes eventually recognized the futility of continued warfare, understanding that neither truth nor ideals could triumph absolutely over the other. They agreed to cease hostilities and allowed Reshiram and Zekrom to hibernate, the dragons retreating to separate caves where they transformed into dormant stones. The Lightstone and Darkstone waited in these hidden locations for centuries, holding the dragons in stasis until heroes worthy of awakening them would emerge. These stones respond only to individuals who embody their respective philosophies completely, activating when such people grasp them with genuine need. The tail that fell from the original dragon became Kyurem, the boundary Pokémon, a being of ice and emptiness that represents the void left by their split. Kyurem's body appears incomplete, patches of frozen flesh covering what seems like a damaged frame. This fragmented appearance reflects Kyurem's nature as a remnant, a part of the whole rather than complete entity. The ice that covers Kyurem isn't normal frozen water, but compressed coldness, temperature low enough to cause atmospheric gases to solidify. This extreme cold emanates constantly from Kyurem's body, creating permafrost wherever it settles and causing blizzards when it flies. Kyurem harbors no philosophical preferences, embodying neither truths nor ideals, but instead the space between them. This neutrality makes Kyurem unpredictable, sometimes aiding truth seekers and other times supporting idealists, guided by motives unclear to observers. Some researchers theorize that Kyurem acts on instinct to recreate the original dragon, seeking out Reshiram or Zekrom in attempts to merge and restore their prior unity. These attempts manifest as aggressive pursuit, with Kyurem attacking the other dragon on sight in what appears to be combat, but might be attempted fusion. Through unique devices called the DNA splicers, Kyurem can temporarily merge with either Reshiram or Zekrom, achieving partial restoration of the original dragon's power. Fusing with Reshiram creates White Kyurem, a form that balances Kyurem's ice with Reshiram's fire, generating attacks that flash freeze and incinerate simultaneously. Merging with Zekrom produces Black Kyurem, combining Kyurem's cold with Zekrom's electricity to create lightning storms that freeze rain mid-fall. Both fusion forms demonstrate power that exceeds either component alone, hinting at the original dragon's might when fully unified. But these fusions remain incomplete, as Kyurem can bond with only one dragon at a time. True reunification would require simultaneously merging with both Reshiram and Zekrom, restoring the three-part being that existed before the brothers' conflict. Whether this perfect fusion remains possible, or if the original split inflicted permanent damage remains unknown. Kyurem itself seems driven to discover this answer, its centuries of waiting and attempted mergers suggesting deep yearning for wholeness. The boundary Pokemon's existence serves as warning about the cost of absolute positions, demonstrating how rigid adherence to single philosophies fragments what should remain unified. The Tao Trio's story resonates through Unova's culture even today, with citizens often identifying as truth seekers or ideal pursuers, unconsciously perpetuating the ancient division. Some philosophers argue that both sides misunderstand the lesson, that the original dragon's message wasn't about choosing between truth and ideals, but recognizing their necessary coexistence. Truth without ideals becomes nihilistic, accepting reality without attempting improvement. Ideals without truth become delusion, pursuing fantasies disconnected from possibility. Only by honoring both can individuals and societies achieve the balance the original dragon once represented. Descending from philosophical abstractions to more primal forces, we encounter the forces of nature, legendary Pokémon, whose powers govern weather at regional scales. These beings, sometimes called the Kami Trio, take the form of anthropomorphic animals, their bodies merging human and beast characteristics in unsettling combinations. Each commands specific meteorological phenomena, wielding these forces with precision that can bless or devastate depending on their moods. Ancient Unova and Hisui both recorded encounters with these Pokemon, describing them as temperamental deities who demanded respect and offered benefits to faithful worshippers. Tornadus, the cyclone Pokemon, controls wind and storms, generating hurricanes with casual wing flaps. Its lower body consists of swirling clouds rather than solid legs, allowing Tornadus to fly without visible means of support. This cloud form changes color with Tornadus's emotional state, darkening when angry and lightening when calm. The Pokemon can create vortexes that lift objects weighing several tons, spinning them like leaves in autumn winds. These tornadoes range from small dust devils to massive storm systems that sustain themselves for hours after Tornadus moves on. In its incarnate form, Tornadus resembles a green-skinned humanoid with a purple tail, its expression fierce and somewhat cruel. This form emphasizes speed and special attacks, with Tornadus preferring to strike from distance using wind blades and storm fronts. But when holding the reveal glass, an ancient mirror that shows true nature, Tornadus transforms into its Therian form. This shape resembles a large bird, its body streamlined for flight, and its power shifting toward physical attacks. Therian Tornadus flies faster than its incarnate form, breaking sound barriers and leaving pressure waves that shatter windows. Tornadus earned its temperamental reputation through interactions with human settlements, where it sometimes destroys crops and homes during rampages. These fits occur without warning or apparent cause, suggesting either sensitive disposition or complex motivations outsiders cannot easily discern. Some cultures developed appeasement rituals, making offerings to keep Tornadus content and their fields safe from destructive winds. Other groups attempted to drive Tornadus away through aggressive shows of force, results varying based on the Pokemon's mood during confrontation. Thundurus, the Bolt Strike Pokemon, commands lightning and thunder, drawing electrical storms wherever it travels. Like Tornadus, its lower body consists of clouds, though Thundurus's clouds spark with constant electrical discharge. The Pokemon can store vast amounts of electrical energy within these clouds, releasing it as concentrated bolts or widespread chain lightning. A single strike from Thundurus carries enough amperage to power a city for days, though the discharge lasts only milliseconds. The thunder that follows shakes the ground, with reports suggesting Thundurus's loudest roars can trigger avalanches in mountainous regions. Thundurus's incarnate form bears blue skin and an aggressive posture, wielding electrical power as weapon and tool. This form excels at ranged combat, launching thunderbolts from safe distances and dodging counterattacks with aerial maneuvers. The reveal glass transforms Thundurus into Therian form, resembling a serpentine dragon with spiked scales and a more muscular build. Therian Thundurus specializes in close combat, wrapping around opponents and electrocuting them through sustained contact. This form's physical power exceeds its incarnate state, allowing Thundurus to grapple with much larger Pokemon and overpower them through brute strength enhanced by electrical discharges. Relationship dynamics between Tornadus and Thundurus tend toward rivalry rather than cooperation, with the two frequently battling for territorial dominance. These conflicts create massive storms, combining wind and lightning, phenomena that ancient peoples interpreted as divine wrath. When Tornadus's hurricanes meet Thundurus's thunderstorms, the resulting weather systems can persist for weeks, flooding regions and causing landslides. Modern meteorologists monitoring these legendary battles note that the storm patterns don't follow normal atmospheric rules, with fronts moving against prevailing winds and rain falling upward in localized areas. Landorus, the abundance Pokemon, controls earth and crops, making it the most beneficial of the three forces from human perspectives. Where Tornadus and Thundurus bring destruction, Landorus provides fertility, its presence causing soil to become rich and vegetation to flourish. Farmers who spot Landorus over their fields celebrate, knowing the upcoming harvest will prove abundant. The Pokemon's power over Earth extends beyond agriculture, including the ability to cause earthquakes and manipulate terrain. But Landorus exercises this strength sparingly, preferring to nurture rather than devastate. In incarnate form, Landorus appears as an orange-skinned being with a muscular build, looking more stern than its companions. This form's combat style blends physical and special attacks, allowing Landorus to adapt to different opponents. The reveal glass transforms it into Therian form, a quadrupedal shape resembling a large tiger or lion. Therian Landorus's physical prowess surpasses even Therian Thundurus, capable of creating tremors with each step and opening fissures through ground-pounding attacks. This form's intimidating presence often ends conflicts before they escalate, with opponents recognizing Landorus's superiority and retreating. Landorus's role extends beyond power mediation, as the Pokemon actively intervenes to stop Tornadus and Thundurus's destructive battles. When these two begin fighting, Landorus arrives to separate them, using superior strength to force compliance. The Abundance Pokemon has been recorded defeating both rivals simultaneously when they refused to cease hostilities peacefully. After such interventions, Tornadus and Thundurus typically retreat to separate territories, avoiding further conflict until Landorus's presence fades from memory. This peacekeeping function makes Landorus valuable beyond its agricultural benefits, protecting regions from the devastation its fellow forces would inflict. A fourth member joined the Forces of Nature trio later in history, though whether Enamorus existed alongside them from the beginning or emerged separately remains debated. Enamorus, the love-hate Pokemon, commands the spring season in matters of romance, using these powers to either bless or curse depending on its judgment. The Pokemon appears as a pink-skinned being with a gentler expression than the other forces, though this appearance proves deceptive. Enamorus possesses fierce temperament, attacking those it deems unworthy with fairy-type energy that strikes with surprising violence. Enamorus's incarnate form emphasizes special attacks and status effects, using moves that confuse or attract opponents while dealing respectable damage. The reveal glass transforms Enamorus into Therian form, resembling a large turtle with cloud formations instead of legs. This shape's defensive capabilities exceed the other forces, allowing Enamorus to withstand punishment while setting up powerful counterattacks. Therian Enamorus's calm demeanor contrasts with its incarnate state's passion, suggesting the transformation brings emotional balance alongside physical changes. The addition of Enamorus to the forces of nature creates interesting dynamics, particularly in relation to Landorus. Some researchers speculate romantic connection between these two, pointing to historical records describing them traveling together during spring months. Whether this relationship extends beyond companionship into actual romance remains unconfirmed, as legendary Pokémon rarely demonstrate behaviors that would clarify such questions. But the pattern of Enamorus appearing wherever Landorus resides suggests either attraction or complementary purposes that benefit from proximity. Together, the forces of nature represent humanity's relationship with weather, the blessing and curse that rain, wind, and sun bring to agricultural societies. Farmers depend on these elements for survival, praying for gentle rains and calm winds during planting and harvest seasons. But excessive manifestation of any element causes disaster, with too much rain flooding fields, too much wind destroying crops, and too much sun creating droughts. The forces embody this double-edged nature, capable of providing abundance or devastation based on how humans treat them and each other. Unova's connection to these Pokémon runs deep, with ancient shrines scattered across the region, marking locations where the forces historically appeared. These shrines received offerings during planting season, with farmers leaving portions of their harvest as thanks when autumn arrived. Some shrines fell into disrepair as modern agriculture reduced dependence on weather, but others maintained active worship. Elders in rural communities continue traditions passed down across generations, believing that honoring the forces ensures continued fertility and protection from natural disasters. Moving from regional weather gods to global climate forces, we encounter legendary Pokémon whose influence extends across the planet. These beings don't confine themselves to specific territories, but instead travel constantly, their movements affecting conditions worldwide. Some carry the seasons themselves, bringing spring's warmth or winter's chill as they pass. Others control winds that flow between continents, regulating temperatures and carrying moisture. A few manipulate ocean currents at depths where sunlight never reaches, shaping climate through mechanisms invisible to surface dwellers. The Swords of Justice represent different approach to legendary status, being protectors of innocent Pokémon rather than wielders of primal forces. This quartet earned their title through heroic actions during a forest fire that threatened helpless creatures. When humans' war set the forest ablaze, these 4 Pokémon risked their lives, leading younger Pokémon to safety. Their courage during this crisis elevated them from powerful individuals to legendary figures, showing that legendary status can derive from noble action rather than innate godhood. Cobalion, the Iron Will Pokémon, leads the Swords of Justice through calm authority and unshakable resolve. Its body resembles a stag composed partly of steel, horns gleaming with metallic sheen. Cobalion's primary ability involves reading opponents' thoughts during battle, anticipating attacks before they occur. This precognition, combined with fighting and steel typing, makes Cobalion exceptionally difficult to hit, as it dodges strikes that seem impossible to avoid. The Iron Will Pokémon serves as strategist and leader, making tactical decisions that guide the group's operations. Terrakion, the Cavern Pokémon, provides the group's physical power, capable of demolishing castle walls through pure strength. Its body resembles a buffalo or bull, built with mass and momentum in mind. When Terrakion charges, the ground shakes, and anything caught in its path gets trampled or thrown aside. This raw power makes Terrakion valuable for direct assaults, situations where subtlety offers no advantage. The Cavern Pokémon also demonstrates surprising gentleness, with young or injured Pokémon carefully controlling its strength to avoid accidentally causing harm. Virichin, the Grassland Pokémon, serves as the group's scout and infiltrator, using speed and agility to navigate hostile territory. Its body design suggests a deer, lean and built for rapid movement through dense vegetation. Virichin's horns can cut through thick steel as easily as grass, making them lethal weapons in close combat. But the Grassland Pokémon prefers avoiding direct confrontation when possible, relying on reconnaissance and strategic positioning. This caution stems from experience, as Virichin has learned that rushing into situations often causes more problems than patient observation. Keldeo, the Colt Pokémon, joined the Swords of Justice as their youngest member, earning membership through training and determination. Unlike its mentors, who became legendary through heroic action, Keldeo achieved status by learning the Secret Sword technique, a move that combines physical and special attack properties. This versatile technique allows Keldeo to adapt to different opponents, choosing whether to strike with force or precision depending on circumstances. The Colt Pokémon's enthusiasm sometimes clashes with Cobalion's caution, creating tension that nonetheless strengthens both approaches. When Keldeo masters the secret sword fully, its horn changes form, becoming blade-like and extending to greater length. This transformation marks Keldeo's evolution into its resolute form, a state representing complete dedication to protecting the innocent. Resolute Keldeo combines the teachings of all three mentors, possessing Cobellian's strategy, Terrakion's power, and Varishan's speed. This balanced skill set makes Resolute Keldeo nearly equal to its teachers, though they still outmatch it in specific areas where their specializations shine. The Swords of Justice operate as vigilantes, intervening when they witness cruelty or oppression. They don't serve any human government or obey territorial boundaries, instead following their own moral code that prioritizes protecting the weak. This independence sometimes brings them into conflict with authorities, particularly when they destroy property during rescue operations. But the group maintains that justice supersedes law when the two conflict, arguing that protecting innocent lives justifies breaking unjust rules. Their legend has inspired various groups across regions, with some humans attempting to emulate their values and methods. These followers establish sanctuaries for abused or abandoned Pokémon, providing medical care and rehabilitation before releasing them back to the wild. Others take more direct action, sabotaging facilities where Pokémon suffer mistreatment or liberating captives from cruel trainers. While the Swords of Justice don't officially endorse these human imitators, they occasionally appear to assist particularly bold operations, lending their strength when rescuers face overwhelming opposition. The relationship between the swords and human society remains complicated, with some viewing them as heroes and others as dangerous vigilantes who undermine order. Law enforcement agencies consider them unpredictable variables, liable to intervene in situations where official response is delayed or deemed inadequate. But civilian populations in areas where the swords operate frequently support them, seeing their interventions as necessary given how often authorities fail to protect vulnerable Pokémon. This popular support makes pursuing the swords politically difficult, as prosecuting them would require explaining why protecting the innocent deserves punishment. Shifting from terrestrial protectors to beings tied to cycles themselves, we encounter legendary Pokémon whose existence marks the passage of time through seasonal change. Deerling and Sawsbuck undergo physical transformations 4 times annually, their forms shifting with spring, summer, autumn, and winter. But beyond these common Pokémon, true legendaries command the seasons themselves, bringing change through their migrations. These seasonal guardians ensure that equinoxes arrive on schedule, that temperatures shift appropriately, and that plants enter dormancy or growth at correct intervals. Shaman, the gratitude Pokémon, transforms barren earth into flower fields during its travels, spreading seeds that bloom within days rather than weeks. This accelerated growth stems from Shaman's ability to purify polluted air and soil, cleansing toxins that would normally prevent germination. When Shaman passes through industrial areas, flowers sprout from concrete cracks, vines crawl up metal structures, and abandoned lots become gardens. This transformation remains temporary without continued care, but it demonstrates nature's resilience and eagerness to reclaim human spaces. In its land form, Shaman resembles a small hedgehog covered in grass and flowers, appearing helpless despite legendary status. This form focuses on passive abilities, like purification and encouragement of plant growth, lacking offensive power that most legendaries possess. But when exposed to Grassidea flowers during daytime, Shaman transforms into sky form, a sleeker shape with wings that enable flight. Sky form Shaman gains speed and attack power, becoming capable fighter rather than passive blessing. The transformation lasts only until sunset, or if Shaman becomes frozen, returning it to land form until next exposure to Grassidea. Shaman's personality reflects its role as gratitude embodiment, responding positively to kind treatment and negatively to cruelty. Those who show appreciation for nature find shaman cooperative and helpful, while those who abuse environments discover shaman can curse them with allergic reactions or crop failures. This selective blessing and cursing serves as feedback mechanism, encouraging behaviors that support healthy ecosystems and discouraging destructive practices. Over time, communities that coexist peacefully with shaman develop strong agricultural traditions and environmental consciousness. The migration patterns shaman follows remain mysterious, with the Pokémon appearing unpredictably across different regions. Some years, it visits specific locations multiple times, while other years show no appearances at all. Researchers attempting to track shaman consistently lose it, as the Pokémon seems capable of hiding despite its distinctive appearance. This elusiveness has led to theories about shaman possessing teleportation or invisibility, though neither ability appears in documented movesets. Alternative explanations suggest shaman simply understands human behavior well enough to avoid detection, staying ahead of pursuit through cleverness rather than supernatural concealment. Gathering seasonal legends together reveals coordinated system, with different Pokémon responsible for different aspects of the yearly cycle. Spring Pokémon like Shaman and Enamorus encourage new growth and reproduction. Summer legendaries intensify heat and extend daylight hours. Autumn beings begin harvest and prepare for dormancy. Winter forces bring cold and snow that protect hibernating species. This division of labor ensures seasons transition smoothly, each phase flowing naturally into the next, without jarring shifts that might damage ecosystems. But occasionally, seasonal Pokémon fail to perform their duties, causing climate anomalies that threaten both human and Pokémon populations. Delayed springs leave crops unplanted past safe dates. Extended summers exhaust water supplies and fuel wildfires. Premature winters catch migrating species in transit, stranding them between summer and winter ranges. Historical records describe famines caused by such seasonal failures, events that motivated humans to develop seasonal shrines and offerings. By honoring seasonal legendaries, ancient peoples hoped to ensure timely performance of their critical functions. Modern understanding of climate includes mechanisms beyond legendary influence, with ocean currents, solar cycles, and atmospheric composition all affecting seasonal patterns. But these scientific explanations don't necessarily contradict legendary involvement, as the Pokémon might work through natural systems rather than superseding them. Perhaps seasonal legendaries guide weather patterns rather than create them from nothing, adjusting existing forces to achieve appropriate timing and intensity. This interpretation reconciles traditional beliefs with modern meteorology, allowing both perspectives to hold partial truth. Moving from seasonal cycles to generational ones, we encounter legendary Pokémon whose lives span multiple human lifetimes. These ancient beings witnessed civilizations rise and fall, observed technological revolutions transform landscapes, and remembered eras before humans dominated the planet. Their perspectives differ fundamentally from shorter-lived species, measuring time in centuries rather than years. This temporal disconnect creates communication challenges, as immediate concerns that dominate human thinking barely register to beings whose memories stretch across millennia. Heatran, the lava dome Pokémon, makes its home in volcanic chambers, where temperatures would instantly vaporize most life. Its body has adapted to extreme heat, with blood replaced by molten magma that flows through veins. Heatran can control this internal temperature, cooling specific body parts to interact with normal temperature objects while keeping core temperature high enough to melt steel. This ability allows Heatran to traverse both volcanic interiors and surface environments without difficulty, though it prefers remaining deep underground, where heat levels match its comfort range. Heatran's territorial nature causes it to attack intruders in its volcanic domain aggressively. The Pokemon views these underground chambers as personal space, reacting to uninvited entry the way humans respond to home invasion. This defensiveness has led to several documented conflicts with mining operations that accidentally breached Heatran's territory. These encounters typically end with the mining equipment destroyed and workers fleeing for their lives, though Heatran rarely pursues once intruders leave its domain. The Lava Dome Pokemon seeks only to protect its home, not to cause random destruction. Unlike most legendary Pokemon, Heatran can be either male or female, a trait shared with very few others in its category. This biological flexibility suggests Heatran might not be a singular entity, but rather a species of powerful Pokemon, several individuals occupying different volcanic systems worldwide. This theory gains support from reports of multiple simultaneous Heatran sightings in geographically distant locations, encounters that would require either teleportation or multiple specimens. If Heatran is indeed a species rather than unique being, it raises questions about how legendary status should be defined and whether rarity alone qualifies creatures for legendary designation. Heatran's magma body composition allows unique capabilities that other fire types cannot replicate. It can swim through molten rock as easily as water types navigate oceans, diving deep into volcanic cores where pressure would crush solid objects. The Pokemon can also absorb heat from its surroundings, draining thermal energy until lava solidifies into igneous rock. This heat absorption serves both offensive and defensive purposes, allowing Heatran to attack by superheating opponents while simultaneously defending by creating cooled barriers between itself and threats. The ecological role Heatran fills remains subject to speculation, as the Pokemon's extreme habitat makes long-term observation nearly impossible. Some volcanologists propose that Heatran helps regulate volcanic pressure, consuming excess magma and preventing eruptions that would otherwise devastate nearby regions. Others suggest Heatran's presence indicates impending volcanic activity, the Pokemon drawn to areas where geological forces build toward explosive release. A third theory posits Heatran as a waste management organism, consuming materials that accumulate in volcanic systems and converting them into stable forms through digestion. Regardless of its ecological function, Heatran's existence demonstrates that legendary Pokemon occupy every viable environment, including those hostile to conventional life. Just as legendary birds command the skies and legendary sea creatures rule ocean depths, legendary fire types dwell within the planet's molten interior. This distribution ensures that all environmental niches have guardians or dominant species, maintaining balance across Earth's full range of habitats. Descending from volcanic chambers to ocean trenches, we discover legendary Pokemon adapted to depths where pressure measures in tons per square inch and light never penetrates. These abyssal beings rarely surface, remaining in realms beyond human reach except through specialized submarines. Their bodies have evolved remarkable adaptations to survive conditions that would implode steel hulls, including compressible tissues, pressure-resistant membranes, and bioluminescent organs that provide illumination in absolute darkness. Manaphy, the seafaring Pokemon, demonstrates unique relationship to ocean currents and migrations. Despite being legendary, Manaphy reproduces, producing eggs that hatch into Phione, creatures that closely resemble Manaphy but lack legendary classification. This reproductive ability sets Manaphy apart from most legendaries, which either don't reproduce or do so through methods unknown to science. The existence of Phione raises taxonomic questions, as the offspring of legendary parent should logically qualify as legendary themselves. Yet Phione distinctly lacks the power and status associated with true legendaries, suggesting that legendary qualities don't necessarily pass to descendants. Manaphy's eggs possess remarkable durability capable of surviving ocean currents that carry them thousands of miles from hatching sites. These eggs can withstand temperature extremes, pressure changes, and even brief exposure to air without damaging the developing Manaphy inside. Once hatched, Manaphy imprints on the first creature it sees, forming an unbreakable bond similar to that between newly hatched birds and their mothers. This imprinting mechanism ensures Manaphy receives proper care, regardless of whether it hatches near adult Manaphy or in completely different circumstances. The seafaring Pokemon's special ability, Heart Swap, allows it to exchange stat changes with opponents during battle. This unique move can turn an enemy's offensive setup against them, transferring their accumulated boosts to Manaphy while giving them Manaphy's debuffs. The ability extends beyond combat applications, as Manaphy can use Heart Swap to help injured Pokemon by transferring vitality or to punish abusers by giving them a taste of their victim's suffering. This versatility makes Heart Swap one of the most unusual moves in existence, blending offensive utility with moral judgment capability. Manaphy's domain includes coral reefs and kelp forests, in addition to open ocean, giving it broader habitat range than most purely aquatic legendaries. The Pokemon protects these ecosystems from both natural and human-caused threats, intervening when pollution or overfishing threatens reef collapse. Manaphy can summon other water types to assist in cleanup efforts, coordinating large-scale responses to environmental disasters. This leadership role suggests Manaphy possesses authority over common water Pokemon, though whether this authority stems from power, respect, or inherent hierarchy remains unclear. Phione, despite not qualifying as legendary, still demonstrates impressive abilities that exceed most common Pokemon. Like Manaphy, Phione can navigate vast distances without becoming lost, following internal compass that remains accurate regardless of depth or distance from landmarks. Phione can also communicate with water types through means beyond normal Pokemon language, conveying complex information about ocean conditions or threats. These abilities suggest Phione occupies an intermediate position between common Pokemon and true legendaries, possessing qualities of both without fully belonging to either category. The relationship between Manaphy and Phione has sparked a debate among Pokemon biologists regarding the nature of legendary status. If legendary Pokemon can reproduce, and their offspring demonstrate only diminished legendary traits, does this mean legendary qualities result from specific genetic combinations rather than fundamental species distinctions? Could common Pokemon theoretically evolve legendary traits, given proper selective pressures? These questions challenge traditional assumptions about legendary Pokemon being qualitatively different from ordinary species, rather than simply stronger versions of the same basic blueprint. Rising from ocean depths to surface waters, we encounter legendary Pokemon whose territories span the interface between sea and air. These beings command tides, generate currents, and influence weather patterns that affect coastal regions worldwide. Sailors recognize their importance, offering prayers before voyages and making offerings after safe returns. Coastal communities build shrines near beaches where these Pokemon historically appeared, maintaining traditions that stretch back to prehistory. The final section of our journey through legendary connections brings us to Pokemon created by human hands, beings whose existence results from scientific ambition rather than natural processes. These artificial legends demonstrate humanity's growing power to shape life itself, capabilities that blur lines between creator and created. Some view these developments as progress, humanity ascending to godlike status by wielding the tools of creation. Others see only hubris, mortals playing games they lack wisdom to control, risking disasters that could unmake civilizations. The treasures of ruin represent unintentional creation through emotional saturation of objects. These four Pokemon emerged when intense human emotions, imbued ordinary items with malevolent consciousness. Wo-Chien, the ruinous Pokémon, formed when wooden tablets recording a king's evil deeds absorbed the grudge of someone punished for writing them. The tablets make up Wo-Chien's shell, and the creature drains life force from vegetation wherever it travels. Plants wither and die in Wo-Chien's presence, soil turning barren and incapable of supporting growth for years after contamination. Chen Pao, the ruinous Pokémon, emerged from a sword used to execute innocents, the hatred of victims saturating the blade until it achieved consciousness. This sword remains Chen Pao's core, visible as the structure it carries. The Pokémon can control 100 tons of fallen snow, manipulating existing accumulations rather than generating new snowfall. This ability makes Chen Pao particularly dangerous in mountainous regions where avalanches threaten villages. The creature can trigger these disasters deliberately, burying entire communities under snow in minutes. Ting Lu, the ruinous Pokémon, originated from a ceremonial vessel that absorbed people's fear over generations. This vessel forms Ting Lu's antlers, giving the Pokémon its distinctive appearance. Ting Lu can create massive fissures in the earth, cracks that extend 160 feet deep. These chasms open without warning, swallowing buildings and roads with no possibility of escape for those caught inside. The creature uses this power to terrorize populations, feeding on the fear it generates in a self-sustaining cycle of horror and empowerment. Chi-Yu, the ruinous Pokémon, developed from ornamental beads that sparked numerous conflicts through the envy they inspired. These beads make up Chi-Yu's eyes, glowing with malevolent intelligence. The Pokémon controls flames that burn at 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit, temperature high enough to melt most materials instantly. Chi-Yu's fires spread with unnatural speed, consuming structures faster than conventional flames while resisting typical extinguishing methods. Water sometimes amplifies the burning rather than dampening it, and attempts to smother the flames often fail as they consume oxygen more efficiently than regular combustion. Together, the treasures of ruin demonstrate how human emotions can contaminate objects, transforming tools and decoration into monsters. This phenomenon suggests that consciousness might exist as spectrum rather than binary state, with sufficient emotional energy capable of awakening awareness in anything. The implications have terrified researchers who recognize that countless artifacts worldwide might harbor similar potential, waiting for emotional triggers to achieve sentience. Every weapon used in anger, every jewel coveted with excessive greed, every pen that recorded terrible truths could theoretically become the next treasure of ruin. Moving from accidental creation to deliberate engineering, we encounter Type, Null, the synthetic Pokémon. Aether Foundation scientists designed Type, Null as part of the Beast Killer project, an attempt to create Pokémon capable of defeating Ultra Beasts. The scientists gathered cells from every Pokémon type, combining them into a single organism they intended to rival Arceus. They called this organism Type Full and equipped it with the RKS system, synthetic version of Arceus's multi-type ability. 3 specimens were created, representing years of research and resource investment. But the project failed catastrophically when all 3 type Full rejected the RKS system and went berserk. The creatures attacked facility staff, destroyed equipment, and attempted to escape containment. Aether scientists managed to restrain them using specialized helmets that suppressed their powers, then cryogenically froze all 3 indefinitely. The Beast Killer project was declared a failure, and Type Full received its current designation, Type Null, reflecting its inability to fulfill designed purpose. The 3 specimens remained frozen in secure storage, living failures that represented everything that could go wrong when hubris guides scientific inquiry. Years later, Gladion, the son of Aether Foundation's president, freed 1 type, null from cryogenic storage. He recognized that the creatures weren't failures, but rather victims of impossible expectations, beings designed for purposes they never chose. Gladion befriended the type. Null he liberated, treating it with compassion the Foundation had never shown. This kindness allowed trust to develop between them. Type. Null gradually accepting Gladion as partner rather than captor. Together, they searched for a way to remove the restrictive helmet and unlock the RKS system safely. Through their bond and training, Type, Null eventually achieved the emotional stability scientists thought impossible. The helmet broke free, not through external force, but because Type, Null's control over its power finally exceeded the restraints. It evolved into Silvally, the synthetic Pokémon, achieving the form scientists had originally envisioned. But unlike the Typeful they designed, Silvally achieved completion through choice and partnership rather than imposed programming. The RKS system activated, giving Silvally Arceus-like ability to change types using held memories. Silvally's success proves that artificial Pokémon can achieve genuine consciousness and emotional depth, given proper treatment and freedom to develop naturally. The Beast Killer project failed because it tried forcing evolution rather than nurturing growth. Gladion succeeded by offering friendship and patience, allowing Type, Null to choose transformation rather than having it imposed. This lesson about respecting created life apparently went unlearned by many researchers, as subsequent projects attempted similar experiments with predictably poor results. Continuing through Alola's artificial creations, we encounter Magearna, the artificial Pokémon built by a scientist 500 years ago. Unlike Type, Null, which was designed for combat, Magearna served as companion, created specifically to be gifted to a king's daughter. The scientist who built Magearna possessed skills far beyond their era, crafting mechanisms that modern engineers struggle to replicate. The Pokemon's body contains intricate clockwork powered by the Soul Heart, a sphere in its chest that serves as true life force. Magearna's exterior features a pattern resembling a Pokeball, coloring that originally matched the red and white of standard balls. Over centuries, this coloring faded until only gray remained, giving Magearna its current appearance. Some researchers believe this color change resulted from prolonged disuse, the pattern degrading as Magearna spent decades inactive. Others propose the fading reflects Magearna's emotional state, colors dimming as the Pokémon experienced loneliness or sorrow. The fact that the pattern hasn't restored despite Magearna's reactivation lends support to the latter theory. The Soul Heart allows Magearna to understand human speech without translation, processing language through mechanisms that predate modern computing by centuries. This linguistic capability extends beyond simple comprehension, as Magearna can grasp context, detect lies, and interpret emotional subtext. The artificial Pokémon can also perceive the emotions and physical states of nearby Pokémon and humans, functioning as an empathy engine that registers the suffering and happiness in others. This sensitivity makes Magearna an excellent caretaker, able to respond to needs before they're explicitly communicated, gliding arbitrary nature of categorization itself. The ambiguity might be intentional, a reminder that legendary status exists as human construction imposed on Pokémon that simply live according to their natures. We call them legendary because their power, or purpose, or longevity exceeds our comprehension, forcing us to develop special categories for beings that won't fit standard taxonomies. But from the Pokemon's perspectives, they're simply doing what they've always done, following drives and purposes that predate human observation. They neither seek legendary status, nor particularly care whether humans grant it. This humbler interpretation suggests the family tree we've traced exists primarily in human imagination, our attempt to impose order on beings that exceed our understanding. The connections we identify might be real, as when Arceus directly created the Pokemon of myth, or they might be speculation, as with Mew's relationship to Arceus or Celebi's connection to Dialga. The truth likely blends confirmed relationships with educated guesses, creating a narrative that helps us comprehend beings that otherwise remain incomprehensible. As we drift towards sleep, the legendary Pokemon continue their eternal tasks, indifferent to whether anyone watches or understands. Arceus maintains the universe's structure. Mew wanders distant jungles, playful and elusive. Dialga and Palkia sustain time and space. The Lake Guardians preserve human consciousness. The Weather Trio balances ocean, land, and sky. The Tower Duo watches over Johto. The legendary beasts roam in service to Ho-Oh's will. Kyurem waits for reunification. The forces of nature govern regional weather. Xerneas creates, while Yveltal destroys, while Zygarde maintains equilibrium. The Tau Trio embodies philosophy. The swords of justice protect the innocent. And artificial legendaries navigate worlds they never chose to enter. Each performs its role without fanfare or expectation of gratitude. Existence justified by function rather than recognition. They form not a family in human sense, but a system, components working independently, yet producing coordinated results. Whether consciousness guides this coordination or whether it emerges from inherent design remains unknown. Perhaps both explanations hold truth, with some legendaries actively cooperating, while others simply follow nature that happens to complement others' natures. The family tree we've explored tonight serves less as definitive truth than as invitation to contemplate connections between beings whose existence challenges our categories. It reminds us that power and responsibility intertwine, that creation carries obligations toward the created, and that even gods can be lonely. Most importantly, it demonstrates that legendary status doesn't exempt beings from struggle, growth, or need for connection. Even Arceus values kindness and punishes betrayal, suggesting that emotional needs persist regardless of power levels. As consciousness fades and sleep approaches, these legendary beings continue their endless vigil, ensuring dawn arrives as scheduled, tides flow appropriately, seasons transition smoothly, and the universe persists through time that doesn't end. Their family tree branches across creation itself, roots reaching deep into mystery and crown-touching infinite possibility. We rest knowing these guardians maintain watch, their power sufficient to preserve what exists, even as we surrender awareness to dreams. The connections between them, whether physical, spiritual, or purely conceptual, weave a web that holds reality together, keeping chaos at bay, while mortal beings sleep safely in the world legendary Pokemon shaped and maintain. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed drifting through these quiet moments, there's another video waiting on the left of your screen. Let it play while you rest. You might discover something gentle before sleep takes you again.